Welcome to Apricot Cottage Studio. Today we're going to make a beautiful card. We're going to try a new slimline card, so it's all the rage. And I wanted to see if I could make a card that would fit in a business size envelope. So the envelope, size 10 envelope that you usually use for bills is 4 3/8 and by 9.5. So I cut the card 8 inches by 8.5 inches and then scored it in the middle for a 4-inch card. And this gives you a lot of real estate to make something beautiful. So the first thing I did was I cut a beautiful piece of that flocked paper, and I learned that it's a good idea just to put the glue on the white pieces, because if you put it on where the vellum is, it shows quite a bit. So I am just going to stick a little bit of glue where the vellum is, or the flocking is thick, so then it won't show on the page. And since this is the backing, there'll be things glued on front of it, but that way the glue doesn't show and it stays securely. So I'm using the fantastic poinsettia petals. I've made quite a few cards with this. I love the dies. So I've used the dies to cut out the red flocked paper, and then the part inside embosses the shape of the veins of the poinsettia leaves. So I've cut enough for 2 flowers, and the way I do the flowers is I just pinch them up like this along the vein lines, and because this is paper-backed velvet paper, it holds the shape very nicely. And then the middle one, and overlap it. And then the one on the front. You can see I'm just pushing my thumb on the middle part and then putting the edge up, and that gives it some lovely dimension. Alternating where the leaves are. And there's my poinsettia. And I'm using the beautiful beaded pearls. They are absolutely scrumptious for my centers. Press that in and let it dry. And I've also cut out some leaves. I'm using Pretty Peacock paper because I wanted a nice rich look, and the Pretty Peacock is sort of a tealy green, so it's quite a lovely shade. So I'm going to take the leaves, and again they are cut out with the dies, and they have a shape inside for the veining, so it's easy to follow that for just tucking them. And then I also cut out the berries, and I cut those out of silver foil because the inside of the flower is got a little bit of silver. And I did the sentiment that says, "May magic and wonder bloom this holiday," and I embossed that with the retired sparkly white. You could just use white. And I'm going to put the card together. So I've got my 2 poinsettias, and I've kitty cornered them. They do take a few minutes to dry. And one at the bottom, making sure that I don't overlap it too much on the outside of the card, because it will go in the envelope that way. And then I've got 2 leaves. I'm going to put one at the top, like that. just put my sentiment in. I've put the sticky dots on the back to hold it up, give it a little bit of dimension. So I'll put that in the middle. There we go. And I'm going to use 2 leaves, one of the bigger leaves at the front, tucked in behind the poinsettia. And the smaller one tucked at this end. So that's how it's looking now, which would be beautiful. But then I added the silver berries for a little bit more gleam. And I just put a little dot on each of the little berries. There we go. And one on this side. So I use 3 or 4 sprigs of berries. Tuck that down underneath. And one more. I think for this one I'm just going to do 3. I'm going to cut this little trim so I can tuck it under a little closer so it doesn't stick out. Adding a little bit of foil makes it very pretty. There we go. So there's my front of my card. Now I'm going to do the inside. So the inside looks like this. Just waiting for this one to dry. I'll show you how I did this because I did a little bit of masking to get this overlapped. There we go for that one. So this one I have a piece of card and I made it 3 3/4 by 5. And how I did that was I stamped with the full poinsettia in real red. Just in the corner. And I created a mask. So how I did is I stamped it on sticky paper and then I covered it with a bit of clear packing tape so that it's resistant, and then peeled off the backing of the sticker paper, lined it up. This is always the tricky part. So you can figure out which way it goes, like this. Stuck it down. And because it's got the sticky tape over top of it, it will resist the ink. And then I stamped one of the poinsettias, just the middle, in real red. And put it off to the side. And I stamped the leaves in peacock to match the card. Stamp again. There we go. And I stamped the berry fond in soft suede. And had it come out like that. And then the berries, the stamp has the berries a standalone, so all you need to do, instead of coloring it, you can just stamp it, and because this is clear polymer, it lines up nicely. You have to make sure that you don't put your fingers in the ink. And the way I can tell that the berries match is these two berries are at the top. There we go. And then I can peel off my make sure my fingers are clean. So there's my arrangement, and I'm going to stamp the words Merry Christmas, which is also in the stamp set. It's a beautiful font. Go. And then I'm going to use my Wink of Stella pen to just smooth the colors and give a little toning to the flower. And if you find that it's not dark enough, you can open your ink pad and just take a little bit more ink for some shading. And the Wink of Stella gives it a little bit of sparkle. Makes it very pretty. Add a little bit more to this leaves that are on the underneath for some shading. And a little bit on the berries just to fill in those spaces. And I think for this one I'm going to use just the water pen for the leaves, so they're not as sparkly, but they have a little bit of color. Give it a watercolor look. Then I used crushed curry for the inside of the berries. Like that. And then I'll glue that on the inside of the card when it's dry. So I hope you enjoyed seeing a beautiful card with the poinsettia petals. I have one more card coming. Well, it's going to be a special thing. So come and join me again. Thanks for joining me, and this is Apricot Cottage Studio. Thank you.